Okay, good luck, everyone. Welcome to our first Shiur. Please give me feedback via WhatsApp or email or any other way about the Shiur, because it's made for your benefit. We're going to do this class will be a little Shiur number one. Will be a little bit of an intro. Go through some of the Marmakomos that we have hopefully prepared. As you might have seen, the first Marmakom was Pasuk in Shmos, and there were three places. That's one of the three places that the pasuk of Los Vashel Gedi B'Chalevimo is written about cooking milk and meat together. And as you learned in the Gemara in Chulin, that's the main reason the Gemara gives for why we have an Isser Basar V'Chalav, and it was mentioned three times as you've seen. One for an Isser Achila, you're not allowed to eat Basar V'Chalav that was cooked, right? And the second is Isser Bishul, cooking. Torah says not be mavashel. And the third is an Isser Hana. If you might have seen the rest of the Gemara there, it was supposed to start in the middle of Kuf Tes Vav and Beis, go all the way to the Mishnah on the bottom of Kuf Tes Zayin and Aleph. And at the end of that section, it'll talk about Basar Oaf, which we'll get to later on this week. But later on in that section, somebody mentions the concept of Kedusha, that the Isra Noah's reason comes from a pasuk that relates to Kedusha. So this is really Parshas Kedoshim that we just finished. That Basar V'Chalav is a very unique halacha. It's not treif. It's two dvarim heterim, two things that are mutter, that are now, if they're put together in a cooking situation, become aser. And it's a sense of, when I was looking at a sense of Kedusha and sanctity that Klal Yisrael have in this area of Achila. Okay. What I'd like to do next is the Rambam. Let me just put it up here on my page. The Rambam in Perek Tes of Macholos Asuros. Again, I mentioned Macholos Asuros is in the section of Kedusha, of sanctity. The Rambam says the following: Basar v'chalav asur levashlo, v'aslo achlo min haTorah, v'asur b'hana. It is forbidden to cook meat and milk together and to partake of them according to scriptural law. And then he says it's forbidden to benefit from such a mixture. Right? It's interesting to note some people say, and there's a whole tumult about this, that since the Rambam didn't put all three together, Isser Bishul and Achila with Hana, he says Isser Bishul, Isser Achila min haTorah, and then mentions Isser Hana. So maybe he holds Isser Hana is not midoraisa. Right? There's a whole tumult about that. We can discuss that at other times, maybe later in the week during our Shiur. V'kovrin also, and the Rambam tells us that you bury this thing. There are two approaches to that, which is things which are aser. You either burn it to get rid of it, or they're min hanisrafim or min hanikbarim. Burn it or you bury it. We'll see later exactly what that means and why it applies here. So he says this is one of those things which are forbidden from benefit, and it must be buried. So nobody can get to it. Va'afro aser ke'efer kol hanikbarim. And its ashes are forbidden. If somebody went ahead and burnt it, its ashes are forbidden to be used, like all the ashes of that which must be buried. Okay. And now he tells you a source. Whenever a person cooks a kazayas, an olive-sized portion of the two substances together, he gets malchus. What does together mean? Together, the mixture is the size of a kazayas. You don't have to have a separate kazayas of milk and a separate kazayas of basar and cook them together. Even half on half or a third and 2/3, but the combination that you have that you're cooking is combined into a kazayas. Then it is your chayav, and you get lashes. And we'll see malchus a little bit how that plays in later as well. And he quotes the pasuk. Los Vashel Gedi B'Chalevimo. The Rambam that I have in front of me online, Chabad.org, in the library, quotes the three places: Shmos Chav Gimel Yotes, Shmos Lamed Daled Chav Vav, and Shmos and Dvarim Yud Daled Chav Aleph. Continues the Rambam at the end of this halacha v'cheina ochel kazayis mishneim yazosar v'acholav. Kazayis is also that criteria when you eat a kazayas size, a person who takes of a kazayas of this milk and meat combination that were cooked together. So then he's chayav malchus, even though he wasn't the one who cooked it. Afal pi shelo bisha, right? So if, however, the meat and milk had not been cooked together, There's no halacha minoraisa that it's usher, right? According to Rabbanan, of course, it's usher to mix them, but if they haven't been cooked together, they just sat together, you'll see, and we'll see in the, as you saw on the Shach and the Taz, that if there are other ways that they were combined through malicha or something else, they might not be usher minoraisa. Okay, so that's this Rambam. In fact, as the notes on this Rambam that I'm using, it says even if prohibition was not violated when cooking them together, like the guy cooked it together, he can do whatever he wants. So he cooked kosher milk and kosher meat together. It's forbidden for a Jew to partake of the mixture. Let's say you turn the fire on, so there's no bishalakum. It's still usher for you to eat it, even though you didn't do any of the cooking or the cooking was done permissibly. So the implication is that the prohibitions against cooking the mixture and partaking of it are separate issues, and that do not necessarily share a connection. That's the Magid Mishnah on the Rambam. Great. Okay. Second Rambam. This is the Rambam in Machol Sasuros, Perek Yud Dalit, I believe, right? Halacha Tes and Yud. I'm sorry, Halacha Yud and Yud Aleph. Halacha Yud says, the Rambam tells you one is not liable for eating, partaking of that which is also prohibited foods, unless you eat of them in the manner. It has to be derech achila. You have to partake of them in a manner in which one derives satisfaction, with the exception, right? Chutz b'basar basar v'chalav v'kilei akaram lefi shel nemer ben achila elahotzi isur achilasim loshon acheres loshon bishul loshon hakodesh lesor son v'afilu shelo kederech hano. What does that mean? The Rambam says that normally in the world, most sha'ari surim, and you'll hear this word, basar chalav and sha'ari surim, other things not meat and milk, which are prohibited to be eaten, right? You're only chayev if you eat them derech hano, right? That you derive the normal satisfaction, okay? Right? But if it's milk and meat, or a kalei hakerem, which means a grafting in a vineyard, and those species, even if you eat them in a way that you get no hana, you get no benefit, I'll explain this in the next halacha, then no pleasure from it, then you'd still be chayiv. The rationale, says the commentary here, is that with regard to these prohibitions, the Torah doesn't use the term eating, but instead conveys the prohibition against partaking of them in other terms, right? Because what does the Torah say? It says lo savashel. Doesn't say lo eating. When the Torah uses the word eating, that implies that one derives the satisfaction in the normal way that you derive from food, which is through the act of eating. Only then are you liable. So needless to say, it's forbidden, of course, midrabanan, to partake of this davar ha'aser, even if you don't even derive benefit. But sha'ari surim, not basar v'chalav, if you eat it shelo kederech, again, halacha Yud Aleph will tell us how that is. You wouldn't be chayiv midaraisa, but the Rambam says that for basar v'chalav you would. But by basar v'chalav, the word cooking is used, and so too and in the pasuk in the Torah about kalei hakerem, grafted vines, it says the long language bilshon hakodesh, becoming hallowed. Like the pasuk there talks about that, like it becomes kodesh, means being set apart and forbidden. That means no matter how you take it, even if you don't get any hana from it, that it's forbidden, even if you don't derive any benefit. So this is an important chilek we'll see in a moment between basar v'chalav and shari surim. Halacha Yud Aleph, Keitzad. What is this implied? You take liquefied fat that's also to eat. Fat is also to eat. It's certain fat. The chelev in the animal versus shuman. Shuman is fat that's permitted. There's certain chelev, certain parts of the animal that are prohibited to be eaten, and that's the chelev. And if you swallow it, you take liquid fat and you swallow it, right, when it was hot, gumo shocham. Ad shenichve grono mimeno, that his throat is burnt by it, so he gets no pleasure out of it. Or he eats raw fat, o she'achal chelev chai, right? Okay, which doesn't have a pleasant taste unless it has to be cooked, mixed with something. O she'erev dvarim morim, or he took something in this regular food and he mixed regular normal food, not the chelev. He mixed dvarim morim, something that's mixed bitter substances, and he gives examples like rosh and lana, gall or wormwood, right? He mixes it into, let's say, something like wine, okay? The toch yayin nesech or the toch kedera shalavera. Yayin nesech is also it's yayin that has been used as a an libation for idol worship. You have a pot of nevela tray food. And he ate it when they were bitter. But he already ate something which was forbidden. After it became decayed, the hivish, and it was spoiled. It's unfit for human consumption. He's potter. Because, right, what happens is you end up eating something shelo kederach. V'im erev davar mar b'tol kederach shebasar chalav. But if you took this something bitter, and you mixed it into a pot of basar chalav, or b'yayin kilei kerem, or wine that came from a vineyard of mixed species, right, then you're still chayav. Okay. What is the idea? The idea of noting tam lifgam, which is giving an unflavorable taste, that we'll learn a lot about in our halachas. That the Rabbanan extended this concept that any pot which is not being used. What do I mean? Like this is that if you have a bitter taste or something like that, it's like nosing tam lifgam, and it wouldn't be considered usher except by basar v'chalav. Okay, we'll leave that for now and go back to the Shulchan Aruch and to the it's Nosei Kelim. So let's read the halacha in Shulchan Aruch. The halacha says the following: Hilchas basar v'chalav, Siman Pei Zayin. It says what's the intro? The title here is Be'eza basar noig din basar v'chalav v'heyach nikra bishul. What meat is considered basar v'chalav, and what's called bishul? So this halacha is going to talk about all of those. I sent you a list of what the topics would be, and that list will be for the entire siman. Ubo Yud Aleph Sifim, and we have 11 sub headings here in this halacha. Says the Machaber. The Machaber is found in the bold, or in the regular Ksav Ashuris, which is regular writing that you find in the Torah, and the Ramah will be in the Rashi script. Kasav Batorah, it's written in the Torah, Los Vashigli B'Chalevimo, Gimel Pamim 3 times, and I'm doing this quickly because we've done this a minute ago. Echad Liser Bishul, Echad Liser, Achila Echad Liser, Ano, 1 for Bishul, 1 for Achila, 1 for Ano, and he tells you, and he's quoting the Rambam actually, the Hotzi Achila B'Lashon Bishul, and why does the Torah use the language of Bishul to tell us about things that are not Bishul, meaning if just eating it, guy cooks it, right, he can do whatever he wants. It's kosher. You turn on the flame. It's no bishul akim. The guy cooks 2 kosher things, milk and meat from your refrigerator. Why can you eat it? Why is the language of bishul? It says it's aser. Lomar she'enu aser min Torah ela derech bishul. Only if it's only aser min Torah if it's derech bishul. Av min rabbanan aser b'chol inyan. What does it mean derech bishul? So the Shach and the Taz are going to explain that. I think the Shach's going to explain that. That if it's kavish or malicha, we'll explain that in a minute. But if it's cooked together, that's when it's aser midoraisa. But midrabanan, milk and meat together would be aser midrabanan if you ate it and they were somehow brought together. We'll see a lot more specifics about that as we go on. We do the Shach first. There's no Ramah here in Halach Aleph. The Shach says the following: Sheino aser min Torah muter ba'ano sif katan aleph. So look on the right, on the inside of the Shulchan Aruch, you'll see Aleph. And you see the Aleph also, Aleph in brackets, next to the word Isur. Where do you have that? I apologize. The Taz is on Halacha base. Maybe not. I apologize. No, Halacha Aleph. Why? Let's rewind for about 30 seconds. There are more comments on it. There's a base here, which is for the Shach, that in front of the Ramah, I thought there was halacha base. Continues the Ramah in halacha Aleph. Kol basar b'chalav, she'eino aser min Torah, muter b'hana. Any basar b'chalav that's not aser min Torah is muter b'hana. So what the Shach's going to tell us, when you soak milk and meat together for 24 hours, or you salt them together in lesser time, they become aser midrabanan, but they are mutter bahana. We'll see later on that basar oaf, which means fowl, chicken, turkey, things like that, which are not aser midoraisa. They're not considered meat midoraisa, so they're not aser midoraisa for basar chalav. They're only aser midorabanan when you cook them together, but they'd be mutter bahana. And we'll see later what that means. Mutter bahana is like you can feed your dog, as opposed to regular meat, kosher meat and milk cooked together. You wouldn't be able to feed that to your dog. So on this, there's the aleph, the bold, the large aleph in brackets. That's the Taz. Let's look at the Taz on the inside column. Sheino aser min Torah muter bahana. Rashal perak chafhei simin kuf cholek alzeh. He quotes the Marshal. Marshal was a contemporary of the Mechaber as well, and the Ramah, as we mentioned earlier, right? Rav Shlomo Luria is the Marshal, and he argues, right? And Mashkos Rambam Mordechai v'Siril the Misfor lahachmir bano. And he argues with the Rambam also, and he argues with this sheet in the Ramah and everything else, that he holds that you should be machmir and aser even bas v'cholov, that it's aser midrabanan. You should be machmir and say it's not only aser b'achila midrabanan, but it should be aser b'ano midrabanan. The Ramah says that it's aser, that it is mutter b'hana if it's Eino Aser min ha-Torah. We'll have to see what the Mechaber is going to hold as well. Does the Mechaber hold different from the Ramah or not? Okay. V'anu, says the Taz, ends the Taz. V'anu ein lonu ela divrei rishonim v'achronim. The Taz follows the Ramah that if it's bas v'cholov, cooked together, but it's not Aser midoraisa, then it is mutter bano. Says the Shach on the top of this page. Sheino Aser min ha-Torah ela derech bishul. Klomar, that's to say, avolo al yidei kavush, umalicha sheinu derech bishul. Two examples of that which is not considered a bishul. You put something together, not with heat, but they soak together for 24 hours. The taste, what's the problem of this isurim? When you cook, the taste in one will go into the other. So you have taste of treif or taste of basar and chalav mixed together. In a regular treif, something treif falls into a pot without basar, without chalav, just treif, by Shari Surim, right? Cooking, the heating extracts the taste of treif and imparts that into that which is kosher. So you need heat. So kavush, though, is considered, the Gemara says, kavush k'mavushal, soaking something together is like mavushal, but that's only also midrabanan. So if you have milk and meat sitting together in a Tupperware container for 24 hours, it's also to eat only midrabanan, but not midoraisa. Even though the Gemara says, kavush, soaking together for 24 hours is like mavushal, it's not mavushal doraisa that you'd be chayev of basar v'cholav. And malicha, also malicha, some say malicha is something which is, if you have something very sharp that is treif and it falls into something which is kosher, gets mixed together, you would, even without any heat, the taste of the treif could be imparted into the kosher meat. And the same thing with something sharp or salted, something salted, a very salty piece of meat, and you have milk that drops into it, even without the heat, the taste of the milk and the meat will be mixed together. That period is like 18 minutes or some say even less than that. And there are many things that relate to that, and we'll get to that as we go, especially when you learn Melicha later on in this section. Kol basar beis in the shach. Kol basar b'chalav muter b'hana. All basar b'chalav, right? He's quoting the Ramah. Look where the shach starts. That's the beis that I thought meant sif beis, but the big beis, not in the parentheses, in front of the Ramah, in front of the Rashi script in the Shulchan Aruch. Right? He says kol basar b'chalav she'eino osim min haTorah muter b'hana. Tur v'isser heter klal lamed. Diramasku v'chein das mechaber. Diramasku v'chein. V'chein das mechaber v'sif gimel. The basarov b'chalav she'eino aser b'achila. So he tells us, the shach, that the mechaber. Now you might have seen it in the Ramah. Maybe the mechaber doesn't hold like that. The mechaber didn't say it. The Ramah is saying it. So maybe they argue. So the shach wants to let you know that in Sif Gimel, when they discuss basar of, which we'll do later this week, basar of b'chalav she'eino aser b'achila ela midrabanan, because basar of itself is not only considered rabbinically meat. Muter bano af midrabanan. V'chein das ra'ah b'sefer achinuch mitzvah kuf yud gimel. V'chein das Rambam. All these opinions. Perak tes me'alachim achol sasuros. Right. V'chein bir dvorov perish hamishna. The Rambam perish mishnayos likes. Perak chafei says that. I'm sorry. Perak kol habasar, which is the Gemara in Chulin. Chen perish Rava Magid daito. The Rava Magid, one of the commentaries of the Rambam, agrees. The Rambam holds that it's not, if it's asur rabbanon, you're not chayiv, you're not asur b'hana. V'chein haven amar shal perak elu trefes simin kuf ushor achronim das Rambam. They all believe this is the das of the Rambam. V'lo k'mo shekasav Bach. The Shach wants to tell you there's someone, the Bach, who was the Taz's father-in-law. The Bach, the Bayis Chodesh, wrote a commentary on the Tur. So the Bach says that the Das Rambam de Basar Of B'chalav Aser B'Hano Midrabanan. He has a different opinion in the Rambam. K'mo she'aser b'achila midrabanan. Okay, so he just wants to let you know that somebody argues with their understanding of the Rambam. But even the Marshal, who argues with who argues with this whole shita and says you should be machmir and say it's aser b'hano, even though it's an isur d'Rabbanan, he knows that the Rambam argues with him, and the Rambam holds that it is mutter b'hano. And that's all we'll do on the shach on this halacha. Let's look at halacha beis. Okay, halacha beis says Gedi lav dafka. When the Torah says Lo savasha gedi b'chalevimo, it's not specifically a goat, right, or that type of species. Tehu adin shor sev eiz. Shor is an ox, says a lamb. Eiz is a right, similar category, like a calf. V'lo shna v'lo shna b'chalei vimo. V'lo shna b'chalei v'acheres. Doesn't matter if you take this animal, whatever animal you take. Kosher animal has to be, because you'll see in Halacha Gimel that it has to be a kosher species. Any kosher animal you take, it doesn't have to be chalevi mo, the chalav, the milk of its own mother, right? It could be the milk of a different one, right? It could be milk from a cow, and this is now a lamb, right? Right? Ella shedibra kos behova. The Torah, it says lo shvashel gedi b'chalevi mo, is referring to that idea that it's just the normal thing is that you have an animal, and you're taking the animal, you shech the animal, it's close to its mother, you get milk from the mother, and you've done milk basar chalav with that animal. That's the normal language, the normal way that people would have done it, and therefore it's written in the Torah that way, but it includes all types of kosher animals and kosher milk. Okay, let's discuss now in detail. Okay, let's go to the next section in our topics. We're going to discuss now the difference between basar v'chalav and shari isurim. Again, shari isurim are other things that are prohibited to be eaten, but not mixed through basar v'chalav. So I mentioned before that the Pri Megadim, right, who lived in the 1700s, wrote a lengthy psicha introduction to basar v'chalav, and he explains that the three main differences between the basar v'chalav isur and shari isurim. Okay. One is mixing milk and meat together through cooking by a normal method are aser b'hano midoraisa. Most cases of shari surim are mutter b'hano except for chametz and pesach, orlo, and kalei akerem. What we just learned in Shulchan Aruch is that this idea that which is basar b'chalav midoraisa, kosher beef with any kosher milk, that makes, and it's cooked together, it makes it aser to be mavashal midoraisa. Aser to eat it midoraisa. It also is aser b'hano midoraisa. But other isurim, you take a treif piece of meat and it falls into a pot of kosher meat, and there's not enough of bittul, and that whole pot is treif. Or you have a treif nevela, you have a treif piece of meat. I could give it to my dog to eat. That's hana, that's benefit. I can sell it and make money from it. It's by shari surim, I don't have a problem of getting any benefit. This idea of hana, prohibited of hana, is by basar v'chalav. There only are three exceptions. Chametz on Pesach, you're not allowed to have benefit, hana from chametz on Pesach, right? Orla, right? You all saw this in the Mishnayos we were learning in the Rav that I gave the Shiur. Go back to see that Shiur that I gave for, I think, 13 minutes or 18 minutes last week on the idea of all these isurim. Orla was fruit that you plant a tree in Eretz Yisrael and you have to leave the fruit for the first 3 years. You can't eat any of the fruit, and in the fourth year you can. That's called Orla. And Kalei Akerem is the grafted vineyards, those types of, like the produce of different crops, which were grown together. Okay. That was number one difference. The Pri Megadim goes on to another difference. By basar v'chalav, the laws of Chanan and Efsher L'Sokto are midoraisa. By shari surim, they are only midorabanan. So what is this? What are these? So let me tell you what does this mean? Let me give you some definition. Chanan. The word chanan, ches nun nun, is a Rashi Tevis abbreviation. You're going to hear it a lot, so learn it well. Chanan stands for chaticha nasis nevela. The piece becomes a nevela. Something that's kosher, that becomes treifed up, it becomes a piece of nevela itself. Let me give you an example. If an ounce of milk falls on a pound of meat that's cooking, right? The meat has a taste of it's usher because the meat has a taste of milk in it. There isn't 60 times the ounce of milk. Is only a pound of meat is 16. A pound is 16 ounces, so it's 16 times 1/6 times the 1 ounce of milk. There's no bittel, so now the meat absorbs the taste of the milk. Fine. If that piece of meat is now cooked in a pot of vegetables, how much do I need to be mavatal the isser? Right? The taste of the Isser is Asr min Torah. We'll learn in a minute what Tom Kicker means. Meaning, if you took the milk away, you took out this piece of meat that had been cooked with a drop of milk. Now you take it out of that pot, that drop of milk is gone. It's what's left in that meat is just the taste of the milk. Tom Kicker, we say the taste of something is considered Asr, and that's Asr min Torah. So the meat cooked in a pot, let's say of 30 pounds of vegetables, this meat that absorbed the taste of milk and was taken out and now put in a pot of 30 pounds of vegetables, even though there's now 60 times whatever milk would have come out of the meat, right? Because there's 1 ounce of milk that we started with. 30 pounds of vegetables would be like 480 times the amount of milk, right? So even though there's 60 times whatever meat would have come whatever milk would have come out of the meat, right? And there will not be a taste of meat and milk in the vegetables, okay? Just meat taste. Still, we say that the whole pound of meat has a din of an avela. That meat originally that started out was cooked with 1 drop of milk. Since there wasn't enough to be mavatal the taste, to nullify the taste of the milk, that piece of meat in its entirety becomes usher. I mean, how can it be more usher than just to drop the ounce of milk? All of was an ounce of milk. It can't be worse than an ounce of milk. No, that's this halacha that chanan, chaticha, this piece, nasis nevela, becomes a nevela, right? And therefore, even though there will not be the taste of milk and meat in the vegetables, just the meat taste, still we say that the whole pound of meat has a din of nevela and is usher in its entirety. This is called chanan, which now we require 60 pounds of vegetables to nullify the 1 pound of meat. We'll talk about that more as we go on. So that is a law, that is also midoraisa by bas v'cholav, but only also midorabanan by a sha'ari surim. What do I care? Because when there's a shaila or a suffix in a dorabanan, you can go lakula, you can go lenient. A suffix in a doraisa by bas v'cholav, it's a din doraisa. You're not sure? You have to go ahead and be You have to be machmir. Another difference between doraisa and dorabanan by bas v'cholav and sha'ari surim is something called efshar l'sochto. Let me give you an example. If a piece of meat if you have a piece of meat that had milk absorbed in it, like our case before. But now you cook it so much that the taste of milk comes out and it no longer has a taste of milk. Let's say a guy would taste it and say, I have no taste of milk in it. Nevertheless, this piece of meat remains usher. So efshar l'sokto literally means you're able to squeeze out the milk somehow. When you cook something out, it loses taste. Evaporates, loses taste. That's an example of how to do it. But we still say efshar l'sokto is usher midoraisa. The bas v'cholav is still usher midoraisa, and by sha'ari surim it's on the rabbanan. That's number 2 distinction that the Pri Megadim tells us. Now the Pri Megadim says a third idea, that by bas v'cholav, tam kicker is a din doraisa according to everyone. Again, tam kicker means tam, taste, is like the ikar, like the meat itself. Anything that is a taste of isser, even if the isser was removed, right? You have a pot that had treif meat fell into it. Okay? A pot of vegetables, treif meat fell into it. There isn't 60 to nullify it. And like we saw in the halacha in the Mishnayos we were learning, you took the meat out, so the isser is gone. Whatever taste was imparted into the vegetables from the meat that was usser is considered, the vegetables are considered usser, because we say tam, the taste of the meat, the treif kicker is as if the meat is still there, and the same thing with basar v'chalav. So tam kicker is asur midoraisa by basar v'chalav according to everyone, and by shari surim the Rishonim hold that it's asur midorabanan, right? In Hilchas Taruvus we'll learn that the Mechaber Ramah hold that tam kicker is also midoraisa there by shari surim. But by basar chalav, there is a malchus for eating kazayis of basar or of chalav, or a kazayis of a mixture. Well, we'll get that in a second. So again, tam ki'ikr, there's a machlokes whether it applies to shari sirim midoraisa or only midorabanan. And the second, another thing related to this is that basar b'chalav, there's malchus for eating a kazayis of basar or of the chalav. Or a kazayas of the mixture, but by shari surim there's no malchus given for eating food that's absorbed the taste of isser if the isser is not present. So in our case here, you have a treif piece of meat, no milk, treif piece of meat falls into a pot of vegetables. The vegetables don't have 60 times the piece of meat. The meat imparts flavor into the vegetables. Okay, you take the piece of meat out and you don't eat it. If you're not allowed to eat that vegetables because it is tam kicker, it was imparted with treif taste. But if you go ahead and eat it, right, there's no malchus, right? And by basar chalav though, if milk fell in and you take that milk out, right, and it wasn't butter, and you take that milk out and it still has some milk taste in that meat, or the other way around. Let's say you have a pot of milk and you drop meat in it and it's all cooking, and you take the meat out. So it has imparted the taste in the milk, and now it's isser basar v'chalav. If you go ahead and drink that or eat that, you would get malchus. So what's the nafkamina? Nobody gives out malchus nowadays. So what's the nafkamina for us, right? So the nafkamina would be the following: is that on the idea of pasula edus, right? We all know that certain people are prohibited, are pasula edus. Okay. Not everybody who transgresses an avera is considered pasal edus, right? Or else, who could be an aid at somebody's chasna? Because everybody does averas. Like everybody says lashon hara sometime, whatever it is. In fact, rabbanim try to, when they have eidim under the chuppah, they tell them, listen, do tshuva before you give witness here, right? So the halacha, who are considered pasal edus, invalid to be eidim, right? People who are over isurim and choshen mishpat, money-related type of ideas, and also somebody who does an isser that the onesh of that isser is an isser of is a punishment of malchus. So basar v'chalav would be part of that situation. Okay, very good. Let's continue. Now the Piskei Tshuva that you saw in Aleph adds the following. Do you want me to read the Piskei Tshuva? Let me read the Piskei Tshuva to you. Again, Piskei Tshuva is on the daf, very small print, in Aleph. It's 2 lines. Le'isser achila. Okay, he quotes at the beginning of the Mechaber. V'af shelo kederach achila v'hana aser. Even if it's not the normal way of eating or having benefit, it's aser. V'hayaloka alav. He would get malchus. Ma'shein kein bishor isurim. Unlike other isurim, chutz mikalei hakerem, like kalei hakerem would be in the same place where you would be aser bana and you would get malchus. Kenkas or Rambam so per Gedalim mechas machal asuros, and the Pri Megadim writes it in the Psicha. So we see that in the Piskei Tshuva. Okay, by shari surim, only if there's a hana while eating them would you be chayav. Therefore, it is aser to eat basar chalav even if one made it bitter. The Rambam adds that we learned this from the fact that the Torah didn't use the word achila to aser eating it. However, the Achronim infer, this Achronim is a Yad Avram, Chaves Das, Sifsei Das, they infer from the Rambam that if the basar v'chalav became moldy to the extent that it's no longer fit for human consumption, it's no longer aser to eat. And furthermore, if the meat or milk are bitter or lifgam, bad tasting, and it's cooked with other things like milk or meat, there's no iser basar v'chalav midoraisa because it's not derech bishul, meaning if you take something that's moldy or something that's totally decayed and you cook, it's a piece of meat, and you cook it with milk, it's not, you haven't transgressed the isser because it's not basar v'chalav, it's no longer basar, so it's not really, you're not really aser. Okay, that's an expansion of the Rambam. We mentioned in the Rambam also this concept of mina nikborim. right? The Mishnah in Trumos tells there are categories of all Isurei Hana are in the category of Min HaNikbarim. That means it must be buried, or Min HaNisrafim, which means it must be burned. So the Mishnah says that the Basar V'Cholav, it's also Midoraisa, correct, right, is Min HaNikbarim. The Isur Hana Midoraisa of Basar V'Cholav means that it's Min HaNikbarim, like the Rambam says. Therefore, even if the piece of Basar V'Cholav is burnt into ashes, the ashes are Asur. This is how the Rambam, as we saw in Halach Aleph of Perek Tes, Paskins, there's a Minchas Yaakov, holds that the ashes would be mutter because there's no cholav at all left in them. You burnt it. There's no milk left in them. The Taz holds by the Svar of the Minchas Yaakov. The Taz is in Kufhei by in Taruvos, and the Shach holds against the Minchas Yaakov. Zimachlokes. The Pri Megadim says he follows the Shach, and the Shach held that both the milk and the meat become Isser Machmas Atzmo, intrinsically Asser, and therefore you would not be allowed, the ashes themselves are Asser. Even though you burnt it, you should have buried it, the ashes themselves are considered Asser Bahana now as well. Okay, next, types of cooking. All right? I know today's shiur is a little bit longer than normal, but we're going to finish hopefully soon, and then next one will be a little shorter. Types of cooking. So the Pri Megadim also goes on in his Psicha, and it says what types of taste transfers are Asur Midoraisa and which are Asur Midarbanan. So he said, number one, food placed in a Kli Rishon is Asur Midoraisa. Kli Rishon means something where you're cooking, it's like the cooking pot. A pot on the stove, or removed from the stove, and is still hot, so it doesn't even have to be on the stove, but it was on the stove and it's still hot, it has a din of a Kli Rishon. Right? We'll learn later on in Taruvos, in Kufhei, that if the pot is on the stove and it hasn't reached Yad Soletis Bo, right? What's Yad Soletis Bo? We say it's about 110, 120 degrees, or it's been removed and cooled less than Yad Soletis Bo, so it's not considered cooking Midoraisa. So cooking has to be at a certain temperature of Yad Soletis Bo or more, even if it's not on the fire, if it was taken off and is that hot. So the Pri Chodesh comments that another idea that Basar V'Cholav is not Asur Midoraisa unless it's cooked K'machal ben Drusoy, which you might have heard what Machal ben Drusoy is from if you're doing Daf Yomi or from Gemara and Shabbos, right? The ben Drusoy were a group of robbers, right? They would eat their food on the go, so no, they shouldn't be caught, and before it's fully cooked. So the machlokas, does that mean half cooked or a third cooked? I think we accept that means a third cooked, but the fact is that if it doesn't cook that much, at least a third or a half, it's not considered cooked. But it's still asur to eat midorabana, meaning midoraisa, you haven't transgressed the isser if you took it off, the milk and meat were together, and it isn't yet half or a third cooked, but it's still asur to be consumed or used midorabana. The Pri Megadim says that it is still asur ba'ana, even if you remove the food from the pot immediately, implying that there is an isser doraisa from the Pri Megadim, even if it is not machal ben drusoy. Okay. We saw in the Shach that Melicha Kavush, right, is Asur Midrabanan. Other types of Kavush, this Kavush means you soak something for 24 hours, or you soak something in salty meat juices, which is a little bit quicker, right? It's Asur Midrabanan, right? There's a machlokas how long Kavush in sear, salty meat juices, would be a problem. So the opinions range between 6 and 18 minutes. I mentioned 18 minutes before. Rav Akiva Eger says that to cook it afterwards would be asur midoraisa, which means Rav Akiva Eger says that you are not transgressing bishul doraisa when you soak them together, or when you pickle, let's say, the meat in brine of milky brine, right? 18 minutes, it's asur midorabanan. But says Rav Akiva Eger, now that it is, you take it later and then you cook it and do real cooking, you would be chayav midoraisa, because on the doraisa leaven it hasn't been cooked yet. Okay. What about what we call cham l'toch tzonan, hot food falling into cold food, is asur k'dei klipa, but only midrabanan. What is k'dei klipa? It means that only the outer layer is asur, only midrabanan. A lot of these ideas we'll get to as we go along. What about food that was in a klisheni that was hot, right? it was the Kli Sheni is something that from the Kli Rishon that's on the fire you pour into a second Kli. What is that? And that Kli is and it's hot. That's considered Asur Midrabanan to put milk and meat together in there. Irui, pouring from a Kli Rishon, Shelo Nifsak Hakiluach, that the stream from the Kli has not been broken, right? So you have a Kli, let's say a milk, hot milk, and it hasn't been broken, is a suffix midoraisa, whether it cooks Kidei Klipa or not, whether that means it's considered cooking or not midoraisa. We'll get more into that as well. What about frying? Let's go to roasting. What about roasting milk and meat together? Tzli. So the many opinions that say it's also midoraisa, pri chadash, pri megadam, Rav Yeager. And according to Chavez Das, Narach HaShulchan, it's only asur to eat midorabanan. Tigun, what about frying? According to the Pri Chadash, it's asur midoraisa, and according to Minchas Yaakov and Narach HaShulchan, it's only asur to eat midorabanan. And the Pri Megadam says relies on the Minchas Yaakov when there's a hefsid meruba that it's only asur midorabanan when it's a major loss. Again, I'm throwing out these ideas at you, just things that we're going to end up covering or discussing in more detail. Right? Don't have to go worry about all the details here. Cham b'cham, what about hot meat touching hot cheese without liquid? Is asur d'Rabbanan and mutter bana, because there's no liquid, right? It's just two hot pieces touching. It's asur midrabbanan and mutter bana. And what about smoking? Sometimes we cook through smoking, mu'ushan, so that we're going to deal in Sif Vav, and we'll deal probably next week with it. Okay. What about other milk? Torah talks about the kids' milk. Aruch HaShulchan, which is someone who wrote his halacha sefer about 130 years ago, says that we can make a kal v'chomer from mother's milk to other milk as well. Even though mother's milk and the kid were at one time on the same guf, they are asur if you cook them together. So the milk was inside the mother. And now it's still asur to cook them together. Kal v'chomer milk from another behemoth, another animal, is asur if it's cooked with a kid, since they were never from the same guf. So this kal v'chomer is really a gilu milsa. It's not an extrapolation, not a diak, but just revealing what the Torah included in the original prohibition, and it is asur, meaning that we saw at the end of our halacha. In halacha beis, we saw that the isser doesn't have to be the milk of the same mother. It could be distinct, a kid and a cow's milk, etc. I just want to mention one other idea, which is an interesting practical halacha, and I think we'll end with that. Bishul achar bishul, right? So the Pischei Tshuva and halacha in Sifkat and Dalet brings the Shar Ephraim, right? In fact, let me read that to you. So we'll read it inside. Halacha Dalet, Sifkat and Dalet in the Pischei Tshuva. It starts on the first page of the Shulchan Aruch. This is what I should have showed you earlier. This is the first page. Pischei Tshuva is around here. Sifkat and Dalet. Behano. Ayin berhetiv ayin b'tshuva Shar Ephraim. He quotes the Shar Ephraim. Similar merches shepasak bechema butter shenizbash lo begeder shel basar ben yomo. You had a pot that had been used for meat within the last 24 hours. Therefore, it is considered a ben yomo. That means whatever taste of meat that was in the walls of the pot. There's no meat in the pot now. But whatever was absorbed, taste of meat, was absorbed in the pot because it was less than 24 hours since it was used with meat. And now you took this empty pot and you melted butter in it, right? Asur lahadlik ba, you can't take that liquid, like the oil that you produce by melting that butter. Laha'ir abayis mitam sha'asur bano. Because since the pot itself had a taste of meat in it, Tom Kicker, we said, and therefore the meat taste in the walls of the pot now are extracted by cooking, and you have butter in there, so the meat taste goes into the butter. It becomes a piece of basar v'chalav, which is asur bana, and therefore he says it's asur bana. You can't use any of that liquid, for sure not to eat, but you can't use it even lana to light up a flame. V'gam, turning the page, v'gam lahadlik bo ner Chanukah, even to use it as ner Chanukah. After mitzvahs lav lahanos nitnu, even though I know if I'm going to light my light in my house and I'm going to benefit from it, I'll be able to see in my house. Forget about the electricity. I'm going to light a lamp, so that's hana to me. But ner Chanukah, you're not allowed to be mishtamesh la'uro. You're not allowed to use the flames. And we have a halacha in the Gemara. Mitzvahs lav lahenos nitnu. Mitzvahs are not given to give any benefit. Therefore, you don't have any benefit from the. There's nothing. It's not considered hana, a benefit, when you do a mitzvah. The mitzvahs lav lahenos nitnu. So why can't you use it to light ner Chanukah for it? B'kol aser, it's still aser. Kivin dibe ner Chanukah ba'ishir. Ner Chanukah requires that you have a certain amount in there that it should, you can't just light a quarter of an ounce. You have to put enough oil in there that it's going to last at least a half hour after it gets dark. So there's a chiyuv of part of the mitzvah of ner Chanukah to have a certain shiur, a certain measurement amount. Ubebasar v'chalav kiven she'aser b'hana, since it's aser b'hana, and therefore you have to destroy it, bury it, etc. Kituse mechtes shiura. It's as if the shear was crushed. But you have a whole big, a whole 10 ounces, 20 ounces of oil here from the basar v'cholav. But since it has halacha of asur being asur bana, and it has to be destroyed, it has the halachic status of not existing or lacking any shiur, and therefore it's as if the shear, the measured amount that you required, has been destroyed. Ein sham in Shari Ephraim. Okay. So the Pischei Tshuva brought the Shar Ephraim, okay? There is no derived from a mitzvah. However, the overriding reason is, as we just said, that using this oil, it's asr. Since we don't consider something that is asr to have a shear, have a measurement, it's a Gemara in Sukkah on Lamed Aleph, Amud Beis, therefore ner Chanukah needs a shear. Later on in that Pischei Tshuva, he brings the El Yerabah that holds that there's an isser to light wicks, since you'll be cooking basar v'chalav. Okay, it's already basar v'chalav, and then you're going to be cooking it. This is because he holds that there's a bishul acher bishul by basar v'chalav. Normally, we say that once something is cooked, it's cooked already. You can't transgress cooking. Like on Shabbos, there might be some leniencies if something's already cooked. To cooking midoraisa wouldn't be usher to cook it again because it wouldn't be considered cooking. You cook the basar v'chalav together, so is it considered cooking when you cook it again? Meaning you light it again. So the El Yerabah says that yes, and therefore that's why you're not allowed to use it for ner Chanukah. The Pri Megadim in Orach Chaim says by Hilchos Chanukah says that to take meat and milk that were both already cooked separately and cook them together is also midaraisa. But if the meat and milk were already cooked together, it's mutter to cook them again. Meaning you cook milk here and you cook meat here, right? And now you put them together, they're already pre-cooked, then that would be asr, because even though it's pre-cooked, ein bishul acher bishul agabi that, but that's considered a cooking. The cooking that went on before is not considered existent, and now you're cooking milk and meat together. But if they had been cooked together, meaning not separately and then cooked together in the next time, but they were cooked separate, they were cooked together lechatchila, it's mutter to cook them again, and therefore the Pri Megadim learns in Orach Chaim that in the case of ner Chanukah, there wouldn't be an issur of cooking basar v'chalav, and the problem is that you don't have enough of a shear, and therefore you should not use it. Okay, I thank you very much. I have some discussions on this that I will maybe get to at our shiur. I'll bring that up, so please make sure you go through the shiur, and I'll be sending you review questions as well. I wish you a good tvach and be well.